Oh my God. Buio Omega, aka Beyond the Darkness, aka Blue Holocaust. I love that title. aka Sado, aka I believe Dementia. We knew it in the US under Buried Alive, the Thriller video VHS title. Beyond the Darkness, man. 1979, Joe D'Amato, from the prolific Joe D'Amato, the maker of many, 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 many horror films, many, 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 many porno films. It's been like 12, 15 years since Joe D'Amato has died, and it seems like every few months there's a new Joe D'Amato porno movie on DVD. He's just got such a back catalog, they just keep releasing them. I think, in fact, at one point he had some kind of legal action, some kind of prison time. I read that in an interview because he just made so many of these, and that's a very weird place to be in such a religious country as Italy. But in this case, we're looking at one of his horror films, Buried Alive, a gothic horror film which concerns this man, Frank, a young man who lives in this kind of big, decrepit house. He's obviously some kind of heir to a fortune. His mother and father have passed on. He's just being taken care of by this old crone of a maid. And his bride to be, is ill and dies under mysterious circumstances which may be related to the maid. Frank has this unhealthy interest in taxidermy, and what he does is he basically steals his bride to be, preserves her body, and then puts her up in the bedroom, kind of psycho Ed Gein style. And then he goes about murdering other women and what have you, and the maid helps him. The bride-to-be's identical sister shows up, and things get interesting. So that's kind of it. A relatively simple plot, which, like all kind of Italian horror films, is a bit of a takeoff on some American films. But the thing about Joe D'Amato's films from this time period, from the late 70s and the early 80s, and Joe D'Amato is, again, not seen as a top-tier Italian horror director in the same way as a Mario Bava or a Dario Argento or a Lucio Fulci even. He's much more of a journeyman director. But the thing about, he made a few films here, like Death, Smile and Murder and Anthropophagus and Buried Alive, Beyond the Darkness. And these films are, in some way, they have their one foot in the slasher film, the horror film, the very meat and potatoes type of movie. But they have another foot in this tradition of gothic horror. They're very macabre, strange, eerie tales full of old, decrepit houses and bumps in the night and moody stuff and good old-fashioned chills and thrills and that type of stuff. So I think that's what makes them interesting to audiences, is that they're kind of, you get your kind of your base gore, but then there's also some other stuff, and the soundtracks of them. I think one of the biggest assets to Beyond the Darkness is the incredible soundtrack by Goblin, which has been released and re-released and prized and cherished over the years, and probably reused by some producers on other films as well. At times, very disco, very Italian, Italo-disco type music. The theme definitely is with all of that programming. It's just, in one way, very poppy, but then there are some tracks that are, like Ghost Vest and some of the stuff that's a little bit moody, a little bit strange, And I think that's what really draws people in. That's what drew me in, really. That's what drew me in. This film has really had a big influence over the films that I've wanted to make and how I've wanted to make them. It's a weird thing to to admit. I mean, such a kind of random film such as Beyond the Darkness, but I don't know what to say. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a great film. The VHS release, the original Thriller video VHS release. I rented it one dark night. I think I was going to see Rocky Horror, and then I came back and started watching it that Saturday night, late Saturday night, late Saturday night, Sunday morning. And oh, what an eerie film. What a strange, odd, macabre movie that unfolded before my eyes, you know. I mean, the maid has some ghoulish comedy, and then the weird relationship between the maid and Frank. I mean, and she really, much like Frank, she's just holding on to him and, holding on to his money, his family's money, and manipulating. There's the idea that she's manipulated this family over the years and used that witch doctor with the pins and the voodoo doll and all of that stuff, which it is kind of cliched and goofy, but it comes off as very dark, gothic horror stuff. I mean, this film to me has a foot in gothic horror and the macabre, strange, like Edgar Allan Poe type films. It doesn't feel like the traditional like Italian takeoff of an American film. Even though I mean there is that, of course, the psycho element of it, the deranged, the trying to keep the woman, the dead woman preserved and alive. But there's some interesting stuff going on, and it feels traditional and European and old world and creepy and gothic. And I think that's what really gets you hooked to the film. I know that's what got me hooked to the film. These weird emotions and these weird ideas and what have you. So video releases. Well, the film's been released all over the world. Of course, there was that VHS release that we love, our beloved Buried Alive Thriller video VHS, but it's been released on VHS over the world. It's been released by CMV Laservision and Shriek Show and on Laserdisc in Europe, I believe, in Germany. It's big thing. The German horror meisters. I think this film was banned over in Germany under that Sado from CMV Laservision. I guess at this point the best release at this point is the Shriek Show, the Media Blasters DVD that they released in the early 2000s. It was heavily delayed, and a lot of complaining over that. But it is at this point kind of the definitive release of the film. They re-released it on Blu-ray. They did have a Blu-ray release, which is weird. I've listened to that. It seems like the sound is running at a different level. There's some missing parts of the film, like when they were doing the high definition scan, they were scanning from an incomplete transfer. And I mean, the film is 16 millimeter. I believe it was shot in 16 millimeter. It's only going to look so good. But and I mean, it does look better than the DVD in some ways. I mean, it's definitely high definition sourced from an actual film print. It's actual genuine high definition, but it's still not that great. I think the DVD, the original Shriek Show DVD, is still at this point a really good, competent digital release. And the thing is, if you buy the Blu-ray, it comes with the DVD as well, included the original DVD. It's a DVD Blu-ray 2-for-pack, so you get that release as well, so you can watch that and watch the Blu-ray release and make up your own mind. There was this disco scene in the film, which was cut from many different versions of the film. Just much like many Italian horror, this film has been released worldwide with slightly different cuts and things, kind of pieces missing. And I think that, as far as I know, the Shriek Show release is the most complete version at this point. Has the most scenes. So anyway, there it is. I think there was some complaining over the Shriek Show at some point that it was missing pieces of the film. And I don't know. I need to go back with a fine tooth. There are people online go over these releases. Oh, it's missing 5-second gore shots, missing this and missing that. It's like, I've I'm past the completest phase of my collector life. I just want to see, is it in color? Is there sound? Can I watch it? Is it a relatively complete version of the movie? Okay, I enjoy it, you know. I enjoy, well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy reading about the different versions and everything online, but I don't obsess over it in the way that I used to. You know, I recognize that these films were released slightly different versions throughout the world. There's some, you know, there's a Greek print with 5 extra seconds of footage, but is it going to make a difference to the plot? Is it going to make a difference to my enjoyment of the film? But you know, probably not. I'd rather just buy the U.S. Blu-ray and or DVD and be kind of done with it. But in any case, if you're still in that kind of obsessive collector phase, you may want to go and read the volumes of text that have been written online regarding the different versions of Buio Omega and make up your own mind. I think, for my mind, that the Shriek Show release at this point is the definitive release. 88 films in the UK are promising a remastered version of this, possibly, because they're trying to do a Kickstarter on re-releasing Burial Ground and some other films, and Enigma. I think they're going to do a new version of that, so that might be something to look into. And I mean, any new release of Beyond the Darkness is definitely welcome because it's a great film.